Hello, everybody, and welcome back to What's the Word? I'm your host, Owen Smith, and today I'm here with Austin Morgan. Thank you, Mr. Morgan, for your time today and joining me for this interview.
Thank you, Owen, for having me.
Kick us off. Would you be able to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Emeryville graduate of 2024, December 2024. I come from Northern California, little town of Vacaville, California, in between San Francisco and Sacramento. 23 years old now. Started working in February of 2025 and have just been grinding it out ever since. And really just open to trying new things. I was like, I like to just explore the world and just kind of see what I can get myself into.
So, what do you do? Like, what's your current job? And well, a little further into that, what's your favorite part about it?
So right now I am titled as a project mechanical engineer. I work with a company called Unico Mechanical Corporation. We're based out of Benicia, California, and what our company is focused in is engineered solutions for rotating equipment. Unico's main focus right now is in hydropower, but we do other disciplines that has rotating equipment. So like refineries, because we're so close to everything in the Bay Area for them, do some of their pumps and their valves and refurbishments. And our side, we really deal with the refurbishment. We do repairs and rebuilds and making sure that old equipment and stuff that was installed in the 40s, 50s, and 60s comes back out and gets put back in either the same or better state. I travel quite a bit with my job. I would say that's one of the key things that I have going for me when I work here. And I get to troubleshoot a lot because a lot of the stuff that we work with isn't like hasn't been seen before. Like we're kind of the pioneers of our engineering discipline right now, where the biggest example that I have, which was the biggest like mind-blowing thing, was for all the people that remember Dr. Carl Heine when he was teaching at Riddle with the mechanical engineers. He was a big driver in my passion for the hydro field. And when he took us on a trip to the Hoover Dam, so we can explore the plant, just kind of see how things were. Well, when I toured Unico for the first time to see if I could even be applicable for a job and if I was going to be a good hire. We were doing a tour, and my current boss now was walking me around the shop floor, and we passed by the hydraulic servos for the hydraulic servos for Hoover Dam for operating the turbine shutoff valves, and these were installed in the 40s, I believe. The first time that anybody has ever seen the inside of them since the 40s was us in our shop, where we were taking them apart to then refurbish them so then we could put them and reinstall them back into Hoover Dam. And to see how I went from a place that allowed me to tour it and go see the massive engineering marvels that humans have done. And now I'm in a position where it's in our shop and I can touch the insides of hydraulic servos where the oil from what 80 years ago has been sitting inside in all of the metal and sacrificial material that's been taken away by a steel piece inside brass that's just rotating to then actuate a butterfly valve. Like it's some of the stuff that we do is just mind blowing. And I think it's really fascinating that we work on such projects and in areas of the United States that holds all of infrastructure for generating power or managing wastewater. And that's one of the biggest things that I like to tell people of like, there's a hidden side of America that most people don't see and take for granted, especially with the power generation.
That sounds amazing. That's like the dream. Fighting new problems every day and traveling and seeing very unique situations that very few, if any, people have seen before. That's so awesome. That's so awesome, man. So how are you able to tie writing into that, writing into your day to day?
Writing is a big one because emails and submittals are the two biggest forms of writing. I would say another form of writing that we use is like note taking out in the field where we're doing field notes and making sure that we're documenting what we're doing. So my boss is really good at field notes and he'll share all of his notes with me and make sure that I know kind of like his thought process. And so when we're out in the field, it's what are we doing, how are we doing it, taking pictures of everything, and asking questions for the people that are operating it. So we work with a lot of operating OMs, operating mechanics, I believe, and then EITMs, which are like electrician in training mechanics. Everything is an acronym, so it's like hard to like really break it down because no one ever says it by its full name. But every single time we interact with a person, it's what are we doing with them? What are they doing? And how are we doing something to make further progress? And then for when I'm in the office, emails and correspondence and sending information back and forth between people is either in-house or with our customers. And so it's a bunch of, hey, like we need to order this part, or hey, when is this thing going to come in, or hey, we need to do this procedure. When is it going to be done? Because we need X, Y, and Z contractor to finish before we can come back and then turn A, B, and C on, or get D, E, and F procedure finished, and then we can finalize the project. So it's a lot of like back and forth and just professional talk, using a lot of technicalities, but also knowing when not to be technical. Sometimes you talk to a project manager and you can't throw all of the big engineering terms at him because then he gets confused, or she. You have to break it down in a different way. Talking with an electrical engineer is different from talking with a mechanical engineer or talking with a civil engineer. The disciplines are similar enough into which you can talk technical, but you got to watch what you say. And sometimes they're going to be confused. And if you don't know how to break it down, well, then there's going to be some miscommunication, and that miscommunication could lead to something being turned on when it's not supposed to, or a procedure that's being skipped. Um, and then with the submittal side, it's making sure that people know what you're doing and when you're doing it, and being hyper specific sometimes. I would say the biggest one is like when we do submittals with the government. The government is very good at wanting to know each step you take. They really want it broken down to where anybody can read it and understand every single process. So then they can give it to a new person and they can do everything in the correct order of how it needs to be done every single time. A lot of technical writing, a lot of just making sure you're clear, concise. Other than that, I was like, it's just talking in person. I was like, there's a lot of communication in person that I do outside of the writing, but communication is key. I was like, that is a really, really big thing that we work with.
Yeah. I've heard like try to keep it short, sweet, to the point. Does that apply? Does that apply with you as well?
Yes, it depends on the situation. Sometimes it's best to be short, sweet, and concise. You want to give it like if you're talking to the machinists that are out in the field working on a part, or if they're in the shop working on a part, and you need to come up to them and be like, "Hey, like, what are you guys doing? Like, what's going on?" Throwing big fancy words of how the assembly is going to come together isn't going to make much sense for a machinist that's only working on each part individually. They're not seeing the full assembly and they're not a part of the full assembly. So you can't get too in depth. That's where the conciseness comes into full effect. But then if you're talking to an engineer and you really need to break down each step in full detail, you can't be concise sometimes. You have to go further and further and further down a rabbit hole to make sure that you have everything fully explained out so everybody knows what's happening and when it's happening.
Yeah, I gotcha. I understand. And that leads actually really well into my next question with were you able to kind of transfer skills from your time here at Embry-Riddle, like with the tech writing class or maybe capstone to the writing that you do currently in your workplace?
I would say they're similar. There's some similarities, but I do feel like with the stuff that I do, there's a lot of differences. So when doing technical report writing, the tech report, like the COM technical report writing class, was very helpful because that is the basis of what we do. I was like, I remember tearing down electrical devices so then we could figure out how to reinstall new parts into them, which is exactly what we do here. But it's like we only did that class for 3 months and it wasn't in super detailed depth. When I was doing capstone, we were doing more designing and it was more of why we did certain things. What I'm doing now isn't so much the why we're doing certain things, like why we designed it this way or why we built it this way. That's already been done by the people that designed it before. We are just taking their designs and making it back to their spec again. Our why we're doing it is we took this part and we welded in all the gaps to make sure that there's no cracks, and we made sure that the inner diameter of the pipe is to the specifications as you gave us. And that's all we do. There's no, well, we did it this way for this reason, and this is the reason of why it holds up. So in the hydro field, I would say there's three main aspects to it. You have the design, the managing, and the repairing. Well, each one of those steps involves different processes, and they don't always incorporate the other aspects to it. Designing, you're making the calculations, you're doing all the numbers, you're crunching stuff, you're making sure that nothing's going to blow up when you finally put it in. Managing is to make sure, all right, cool, we're letting the right amount of water through. We're making sure that the plant is operating how it should be operating. And then the repairing side, which is what we do, is taking the parts out of the shop, out of their place, bringing it back into our shop, fixing it, and then putting it back in. So they're all related to each other, but the processes of how each one is done is different. Um, and the writing from Riddle transferring over into job workplace isn't really like a one size fits all because it depends on which aspect you go into, and each part of Riddle's courses with technical writing each applies differently. Like I felt like I learned how stuff was versus why things were. And in industry and what I'm doing now is more of why things are instead of how things are. So it's just answering different questions. And Riddle tries to do its best with giving you a broad, overarching theme that covers everything. So at least you have your toes dipped in multitudes of waters. And that's why I like Riddle with the classes that it gives, is because you do such a broadness with report writing that you at least get to see a little bit of everything, but there's really no big focus until you hit capstone.
Yeah, that sounds, that makes sense. Your writing here has different things that would be applicable, some things that may not be, or it's just, I mean, it sounds like you've kind of matured past, way past the level of writing that is done here at Riddle, anyways.
Yes,
But yeah,
100%.
that's super cool. And yeah, well, as we're approaching near the end of our time, we like to ask kind of a final question, and that's like, what sorts of advice do you have for students like myself currently at ERAU? And yeah, I know you kind of touched on that a little earlier, but would you be able to go into a little more depth?
Yeah, it's what you make of it. Like the one thing that I wish in school that I did was more stuff. Every single time I look back, there was too many periods of dead time where I just didn't do anything. I just sat around, just did schoolwork, and then on my weekends I just kind of relaxed, I guess you can say. But it wasn't really relaxing. It just was doing nothing. I would sit down on the couch, or I'd just like watch TV, or I would not get out and go socialize and communicate. Like I know a big one was walking around campus and seeing all the quads like almost empty because there's no student life. It's like I haven't been in a while, so hopefully things have changed. But it's explore your passions. If you have something that you like to do it. Don't sell yourself short because you feel like you have to. Um, it's most important to not let others tell you how to live your life. Go out, live the life that you want to live. And if people are impeding on that, then understand that maybe those people aren't people that you want to be around. That was like one of the one things that I wish somebody told me when I first went into college, because you only get one shot. Figure things out, talk to people, hang out, be lively. Like you only get one shot. You only get one college experience, and everyone will always say that like college is super fun, and it really is when you start comparing it to work, because work eliminates 5 days out of the week, 8 hours of each day. School, you don't get, you have the flexibility to go do stuff. Everyone always talks about, oh, I have no time to do something, but you go to school and you go to class for maybe 4 hours a day, maybe paying attention, maybe not paying attention, writing notes down. After you get done with class, go do intramurals, go do fun stuff, go hang out with friends, go explore things, do study groups, just talk about random stuff. was like, there's a lot of interests that a lot of people share at Riddle, and that's because Riddle is very good at attracting the people that want to go there. I was like, we have a very big population of intellectual minds that can accomplish a lot if you just decide to apply yourself and make it for what you want it to be.
1000%. I couldn't agree with you more. Some great advice. Thank you very much, Austin.
Yeah, glad I could at least impart some kind of wisdom. I was like, I'm 23, still learning.
Thank you so much for joining me today. And yeah, great having you on What's the Word?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I was like, it was a pleasure sharing some of my experiences and everything that I've been doing in my life. Glad to be an Eagle sometimes. A little weird to not be an Eagle, but
You're always an Eagle, man. Come on.
that's true. That is very true.
This podcast is supported by the Department of Humanities and Communication at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Prescott, Arizona. Our hosts and producers are Owen Smith and Leah Little. I'm Amelia Chesley, Assistant Professor of Professional Writing. Many thanks to the Prescott Campus Writing and Design Lab for hosting our transcripts. The intro and outro music is Wanderer by Alex. You can find us where most podcasts are found. And if you are a Prescott Campus alum, please reach out so we can feature you in a future episode.